We're voting on the nomination of Sylvia Mathews Burwell to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services. I intend to vote yes on the nomination. Ms. Burwell has a reputation for competence, and she's going to need it. She's being asked to oversee a big mess that this administration has created in health care, and so far has lacked the leadership to clean up. Republicans know how to clean it up. We want to take our health care system in a different direction, and we need to be able to work with Ms. Burwell to do it. I'm going to spell out two things today in a few minutes. First, what Ms. Burwell could do to avoid mistakes of her predecessor in working with Congress and serving the American people. And second, what Republicans would like to do with our health care system. This is what we would like for her to work with us on. Here are the 5 things I'd like to suggest. Number 1, end the secrecy. I said last year that the NSA could have learned something from Secretary Sebelius, because getting information about the Obamacare exchanges was next to impossible for members of Congress. The administration owes the American taxpayers and their elected representatives under the Constitution information about how the administration is spending our money. We should not have to rely on anonymous news sources. Number 2, work with Congress. This administration has made at least 22 unilateral changes in the new health care law, many of which should have been made by Congress. At this rate, the president may be invited to speak at the next Republican convention for having done the most to change his own health care law. But our founders did not want a king, Mr. President. Some presidents have stepped over the line the founders intended, but I don't think any president has gone as far as this one. He's appointed more czars than the Romanovs. He's made recess appointments when the Senate was in session. He's turned his education secretary into a national school board. This president has swung the furthest from the kind of elected leaders that our founders envisioned, that George Washington modeled, and that our Constitution prescribed. Will Ms. Burwell follow the president's steps, or will she seek to work within the framework of the Constitution? I hope she chooses the latter. Number 3, please don't solicit from companies that you regulate. This is pretty simple, but the former secretary solicited from companies she regulated. She shouldn't have. This kind of behavior should leave with her. 4, be a good steward of taxpayer dollars. Apparently, the government is sent to spend more than $1 billion federal tax dollars in technology costs on the Obamacare website. We know that nearly $500 million were wasted on 4 failed state exchanges. This kind of waste makes American taxpayers furious. They earned those dollars, paid those taxes, and don't deserve to see that money flushed down the drain by Washington bureaucrats who didn't care enough to see that things were done right. Number 5, show Americans some respect. That means don't announce major policy changes in blog posts. And when Congress asks if you're in trouble, don't pretend everything's fine. If Secretary Sebelius had been upfront about the website problems before the rollout, we might have saved Americans precious time and money. And most important, recognize that the majority of Americans disapprove of the new health care law, and start taking a look at Republican health care proposals as a way to repair the damage done by Obamacare. At Ms. Burwell's hearing before the Senate Health Committee, of which I'm the ranking Republican, I laid out again what Republicans would do if we could, what we would like to do with our health care system. We've been saying this since 2010, when the legislation was first introduced. Mr. President, when I was a boy, my grandfather was a railroad engineer in Newton, Kansas. He drove a big steam locomotive. He would drive a switch engine into a roundhouse onto a turntable. It might be headed to Santa Fe, and then he'd turn it around and head it off in another direction, maybe to Denver or to Houston. It's hard to turn a big train, so that's what they had those turntables for. Now, Ms. Burwell understands this. She's from a railroad town in West Virginia, as it turns out. And that is what Republicans would like to do with our health care system. We'd like to turn it around and head it off in a different direction, not back, but a different direction. We want to repair the damage that Obamacare has done. We want to prevent future damage as responsibly and rapidly as we can. We'd like to move in a different direction to put in place health care proposals that would increase freedom, increase choices, and lower costs. We trust Americans to make those decisions, to make them ourselves. We believe that is the American way. 4 years ago, Congress and the President made what we believe was an historic mistake. Congress passed a 2,700-page bill. Republicans said, we don't believe in that we're wise enough here to rewrite the whole health care system. Let's go step by step to create more freedom, more choices, lower costs. Let me take you back for a moment to the health care summit at the Blair House 4 years ago. The President invited 36 members of Congress. He spent 6 hours with us, all on national television. I was asked to speak first for the Republicans. I said what I thought was wrong with the President's plan. I said it would increase health care costs, and it has. USA Today reported that health care spending in the first quarter of this year rose at the fastest pace in 35 years. The Hill newspaper reported that insurance executives say premiums in the new exchanges will double or triple in parts of the country the next year. Even with subsidies, many Americans are finding that deductibles, co-payments, and out-of-pocket expenses are so high they can't afford health insurance. We said people would lose their choice of doctors, and many have. We said Obamacare would cancel policies, and it has. At least 2.6 million Americans have had their individual plans outlawed by Obamacare. I think of Emily in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, who had a $50 a month policy. She has lupus. That fit her needs. It fit her budget. It was canceled. Now she's in the exchange, $400 a month. More coverage than I need, she said, and I can't afford it. And millions more Americans who get their health care through small businesses will find the same thing is happening to them later this year. We said jobs would be lost, and they have. The President of Costa Rica is hosting jobs fairs, welcoming medical device companies that have been driven out of the U.S. by the onerous 2.3% tax on revenues. We said Medicare beneficiaries would be hurt, and they have. The average cut per Medicare Advantage beneficiary will be $317 between this year and next. We said the only bipartisan thing about the bill would be opposition to it, and it is. A recent Gallup poll says 54% of Americans are opposed to the law. I said during the debate that every senator who voted for the new health care law ought to be sentenced to go home and serve as governor in their home state and try to implement it. And there's 16 governors struggling with that today who won't implement the Medicaid expansion because they worry about costs down the road, and they should. When I was governor of Tennessee, costs were 8% of the state budget, Medicaid costs. That was in the 80s. Today it's 30%. What will it be in 10 years, these governors are wondering. And the most important thing we said was what we would do if we could. We said, let's go step by step in a different direction. And our Democratic friends said, wait a minute, that's not a comprehensive plan. We said, you're right. We don't believe in comprehensive. We don't believe if you're expecting Mitch McConnell to wheel in here a wheelbarrow with a 2,700-page Republican health care bill on it, you're going to be waiting till the moon turns blue, because we're policy skeptics. We don't believe we're wise enough to write a 2,700-page bill changing the whole system. But we do believe that we can go step by step in the right direction, and we outlined our steps. Senator Johnson has a proposal that would allow more Americans to keep their insurance plans as the President promised. Senator McCain has a proposal that allows you to buy insurance in another state if it fits your budget and your needs. Senator Enzi has a proposal for small business employers so that he or she can combine purchasing power with other employers and offer employees lower cost insurance. Senators Burr, Coburn, and Hatch have a proposal to allow you to buy a major medical plan to insure you against a catastrophe and a health savings account to pay for everyday expenses. I have a proposal to make it easier, not harder, for employers to reward employees to live a healthy lifestyle. That's what we mean by doing what my grandfather did with that train, turning it around and heading it off in a different and correct direction. As rapidly and responsibly as we can, we would like to repair the damage that Obamacare has done. We would like to prevent future damage. We want to move in a different direction that provides more freedom, more choices, and lower costs. We trust Americans to make decisions for ourselves. That is the American way. And since President Obama still will be in office for the next 2 years, if Ms. Burwell is confirmed, as I fully expect she will be by a good vote, we will need her help to accomplish that. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield.